Alright folks, I'm back once again to bring you episode number 3 in my mini-series of retro game collecting tips. Now, in the previous episode we covered retro gaming tips for the Super Nintendo. So now we're gonna do so for the Sega Genesis. Now the Sega Genesis was first released in 1989. But believe it or not, at the time that the Sega Genesis was first released, Sonic the Hedgehog had not been created yet. So instead, Altered Beast was the pack-in game for Sega Genesis consoles released in 1989. 2 years later, when 1991 came around and a little blue guy by the name of Sonic the Hedgehog raced his way onto our screen, and he became the pack-in game for all Sega Genesis consoles sold from 1991 onward. The Sonic the Hedgehog is one of the most popular video game characters of all time. I'm not sure if he's more popular than Mario, but I digress. But nonetheless, he has had a ton of games himself over the last 25 years. And so he's had a lot of games. Same with Mario. And Sonic the Hedgehog, the original one, is considered to be a classic among many gamers. The following year, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was released for the Sega Genesis, and that game had the introduction of Tails, and of course has become Sonic's partner ever since. Now, just like with the Super Nintendo and the NES, if you're going to collect for Sega Genesis, you have to keep the price and availability in mind, because everything is on a budget. Because everyone's on a budget, and obviously they can't afford to be getting stuff all the time. Alright, so look around through various places: thrift stores, retro game shops, anything. Then going back to Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, in 1994, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 came out. And while Sonic the Hedgehog 3 wasn't quite as popular as the first two, it was still a pretty good game. And we've got Dr. Robotnik, of course, is back. And he teams up with Knuckles the Echidna in this one. So Sonic 3 introduces you to Knuckles, who I think might be an evil version or something. Yes?
I'm going out for about an hour, okay?
Okay. Speaking of Knuckles, Sonic and Knuckles was released in 1994, and it was the fourth installment of the mainstream Sonic the Hedgehog series. And the game also came out on Windows in 1997, but honestly, this game plays a lot better on Sega Genesis than it does on the PC. Now, there are other great games that have been released for the Sega Genesis over time. Mortal Kombat, which is a fighting game, came out in 1992. And of course, was the subject of much controversy. Then the following year, 1993, a very popular sports title by the name of NBA Jam was released. This game came out during the height of the NBA's popularity, mainly because of one Michael Jordan. And there was also another Sonic game that released in 1993, which was Sonic Spinball, which was basically what this was is Sonic the Hedgehog in a pinball machine, but the idea was still the same: to try to foil Dr. Robotnik's evil schemes. So, those are some of the more popular games that have been released for the Sega Genesis. So now, my the top 5 Sega Genesis game recommendations. In no particular order, they are, of course, Sonic the Hedgehog 1, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, NBA Jam, Sonic Spinball, and Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Now, while the original Sega Genesis model was discontinued in the late 90s, there are actually still Sega Genesis consoles available. There, an AtGames model Sega Genesis is available for retail purchase at some stores, and is available for about $40. And that happens to be the model that I own myself. Now, the original Sega Genesis sold over 30 million units during its distribution. That is a lot of units. And with that, alright, so that is going to do it for this episode. I will see you for the next one.